Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Estonian Experience with Stew and Jay. We are here in Richter's studio. This week, we do not have a guest. That's on purpose because we just want to have some alone time, just the two of us.
Yes, we are back. We are back, guys, and I think we have more than enough fun between the two of us anyway.
I think so, definitely.
Yeah, but actually, I wanted to talk to you guys about, I'm extremely happy with the acceptance that we have so far from our listeners around the world. And I'm ecstatic to tell you that we have actually viewers and listeners from countries like the Philippines.
The Philippines, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was really surprised. Countries like Malta, countries like Australia, the UK, the US, Costa Rica, believe it or not, Brazil, and of course, one of the countries that was very surprised, Russia.
We have listeners and viewers in Russia.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. I love Russia. I think Russians are like, I think they're one of the most hospitable, welcoming people in the world. They've welcomed themselves into thousands of people's homes. I really like Russians a lot. They really are nice people, all jokes aside.
To be honest with you, I'm surprised because, as you guys know, the title of the show, it's the Estonian Experience. And I didn't even know a lot of people knew where Estonia was. So,
what about listeners in America?
Well, yeah, there are listeners in America as well, yes.
I think Americans are some of the most welcoming people I've ever seen. They've welcomed themselves into hundreds of countries around the world in the recent decades. No, Americans are really
We can say that because we both hold American passports, so far. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I might have to get rid of my passport tomorrow, actually, because I'm going on a trip to a country where I don't think we have any listeners. I'd hope to kind of spread it there. Guess where I'm going? Take a wild guess.
Where are you going? Let's see.
Don't
tell me the Philippines.
No, actually, no. I've heard that it's one of the most difficult countries in the world to get a visa to. You have to have a visa in advance.
There's a couple of countries like that. Afghanistan, for example.
I've been there.
Oh, yes, you have.
And it's not North Korea.
China, you can get a visa. I give up.
Saudi Arabia.
Oh, wow. Assalamu alaikum, Saudi Arabians, if you're listening.
This will be my fifth Muslim country that I've been to. So I've been to Morocco, Egypt, Lebanon twice, Afghanistan, and hopefully tomorrow will be Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
Actually six, because I'm going to be going through Doha in Qatar.
Right.
But on the way back, we're going to have like a 10-hour layover, so we'll actually get to walk around the city. Because you don't have to have a visa for America.
I was just going to say that how hard it is to get a visa to get to Saudi Arabia and all these countries for your experience.
There was a lot of bureaucracy involved, a lot of back and forth and stuff like that. There's also a mix-up with the flight ticket. So they are responsible for buying it for me. And I can't talk about why I'm going. It's classified information as of this moment. But there was a mix-up, and instead of getting like a return ticket, like a there and back, I got one ticket there and 15 tickets. Some sort of like bureaucratic error. I don't know if it's the airline's fault.
Maybe they're going to have some presents for you when you get there.
Well, I'm just hoping that when I get to the border, they're going to ask me about it. I already know what I'm going to say. Like, why do you have only one ticket coming here and 15 return tickets? And I'll say, well, I'm a journalist. I'm not going to leave immediately. I'll just come back a little bit at a time.
Well, that's one of the things. A little bit at a time. That's no good. No bueno.
No, I'm not going to say that. But that reminds me of the first time that I went to Lebanon. They had questions that I'm not used to, but it's very much relevant to these cultures. And they wanted me to list my father's full name. And I thought, like, well, surely this can't be relevant to anything. He's not traveling with me. He's never been to this part of the world or anything. And the guy, the border guard asked, like, you left out what your father's name is. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, what's your father's name? I'm like, why do you need to know that? How is that relevant to anything? He goes, what do you call your dad? What do you call your father? And I said, Dad.
Dad.
And he was not happy about that. And the thing is, like, I wasn't trying to make a joke at the time. Like, that's what I call him. And so I answered it.
But this is not the first time I hear this. I mean, I also traveled to Arab countries in the past, but this has happened to me actually here. I don't know, but it's been so long since you've been here, 20 plus years. But every time I've done the renewal of my immigration card or ID card, they make me fill out the same bloody questionnaire, and I have to put my mom and dad's full names, and my brothers and their wives, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, even their kids.
Really?
I have no bloody idea why. Maybe because I'm not white. I'm not sure.
I've never had that.
Yes, I have that. My dad's, my dad's, my mom and my dad's full names, middle names, etc. And they have like 15 names. So, and my brother's wives and my brother's names, the kids, and the whole freaking family tree basically. And I was always curious about that, but I guess it's also happening in a different country. But this has happened to me 3 times that I actually renewed this card.
Like, what happens if like you have a family member who decides to change their name for whatever reason?
Well, I actually did that myself.
Well, yeah, you yourself. But let's say that you've listed your 2 brothers and your 2 sisters, or however many, and then all of a sudden one of them decides to legally change their name, so you put a different name when you renew it. I wonder if the PPA, the Politsei Piirivalveamet.
Well, the problem I had is that as an American citizen, I actually changed my name, I shortened my name when I became an American citizen, and all my brothers and sister and my family basically have different names. As you know, in Latin America, my mom never adopted my father's last name, so and they both have 2 last names, and I only have 1. So that was always an issue for them. Like, why? And I have to explain what's going on. Yes, I changed my name. Here's the document. Actually, I just removed my last name. One of my last names. So it has been an issue in the past, but I was surprised that this has happened to me, and now I heard it didn't happen to you. So
yeah, I think they're giving me a different kind of a residence card renewal form. Even though technically, I have like permanent residence. I just have to update the card.
Well, same thing with me.
5 years or something.
But the funny
like
thing is that we both have American passports. So what is the difference?
Which one do you use, though, when you apply?
The American passport.
The American passport, okay.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that maybe because I was born in Costa Rica, it's slightly different.
I know. It's because I got permanent residence when they still offered it a long, long time ago. And then they took that away, but I think I apply via the old rules or something like that. So it's kind of like I fell into a grandfather clause.
Yeah, because for me I got my ID or my residence permission in 2008. So it's been definitely a few years after you, over 10 years I think after you. But and I have to renew this. First time it was every year, every 2 years. Then every 5th year, or at the 5th year, and then at the 10th year, which is where I am right now. Now I don't have to renew until 2028, I think it was.
My first residence permit in Estonia was issued in 1999, even though I came here in 98. It wasn't actually a residence permit either. It was an exit visa. I got deported from the country.
Oh, nice. So I don't feel...
I'd applied via a student visa, and to get that, to complete it, you have to have a money transfer to pay the tuition. And I was having a big problem with the bank and the international money transfer. They kept getting rejected, even though the money's there. But the Estonian bank wouldn't accept it. And eventually my 90-day tourist visa expired. And so they said, well, yeah, you can stay longer, but you have to tell us when you want to leave, and then you have to leave within 1 week.
Right.
And I paid a very small penalty, and they gave me a 1-page exit visa, like persona non grata, clearly written there. And I was so proud about my passport. Look, guys, look at this. You're never going to get a stamp like this. This is awesome. I got kicked out of an Eastern European country.
So what happened? Did you end up going to America, or you stayed here in Europe? Or what?
I lived in Copenhagen for 3 months, and then lived in the States for 3 months, and then came back December of 99, right before Christmas.
So how did it feel to be an American white person being deported into the country?
Oh, I was proud. It was eye-opening. Like wow, this is great. But at the time, the only people getting deported were other former Soviet citizens from various countries. So I remember going to the border guard or immigration office at the time, and waiting in line. Like I was the only person there who did not speak Russian. But now when I go to it, like I have to update my ID card every 5 years. I barely hear anybody speaking Russian or Estonian. Everybody's speaking English or some other foreign language.
Yes, actually did that.
The demographics have changed so much. It's unbelievable.
I mean, I remember when I moved here, I was called the black guy all the time. It's like, oh, the black guy is coming. I'm like, what the hell, black? Okay, well, I felt also kind of nice because it was different. But yes, the last time I did that in 2008. I think it was. Everyone was speaking English. Lots of Indians, lots of Africans getting paperwork done, which was kind of refreshing because I kind of like the change of pace of being culturally, mixed in the country. But it has been very, very eye-opening as well for me.
Yeah. Well, I should also, just to be fair, I should also mention that when I was going through this back in the 2000s, I lived in Tartu. Tallinn at that time was a much, much more international city. And Tartu has a lot of international students now, so it's kind of evened out, even though most people, professional internationalism would be more in Tallinn.
But, on a positive note, whoever wants to ever migrate to Estonia, at least from my experience, has been the Department of Immigration or the police department or whatever they call it here, has been tremendously helpful. And when I first applied for my citizenship, or my residency, actually, I will say, I applied on a Friday and I got my card on a Wednesday. It was like record limit for me, like completely new. And, after doing paperwork in America or in the United States specifically, or even in Costa Rica, it takes forever. Getting a passport takes 3 or 4 weeks sometimes. it was kind of refreshing to be able to do everything so quickly. And this was in the beginning of the digitalization. I'm already mixed.
Digitalization.
The digitalization era, and of course now it's a lot faster, quicker. Everything's interconnected. So
yeah. Well, one thing that I guess any of our international or foreigner listeners who are in Estonia, they'd probably notice this. Estonians only have two names. Now, sometimes they have like a hyphenated first name. So like you have a Keith, Kevin, something like that. Because for some reason, like the younger generation of parents, they love Western names, but then they would spell it a lot like Keith would be pronounced Kate. Actually, I'm not sure how they would do it. But you only have basically a first name, and you can cram them together and just call it Keith Kevin. And then you can have like a last name, which would be like Ona or Poo or Onapu, and you just put it together, slap it together like apple tree or something. But a lot of foreigners, Americans, typically have one middle name as well.
Right.
But Estonia doesn't have that space on a form. What they've done is they put Ees Nimed, or first names. That's where I have to enter my middle name. But I don't have two first names. I have one first name, and I never, ever, ever use my middle name. But every time I get any kind of official correspondence, it says, "Dear Stuart," and then my middle name. I'm not going to say what it is. Do not ask me. Yeah, you don't know what it is. I lied when I showed it to you.
Oh, no, I actually seen your documents, so sorry.
Okay.
Well, that's...
It drives me nuts, though. I can't imagine what, like, some French person who has, like, 5 middle names. Like,
I totally get it.
The guy's name is Jacques Cousteau, but his middle names are, like, Jean-Marie Le Pen or something like that. Like, dear Jacques Jean-Marie Le Pen.
I totally get it, because actually when I moved here, I mean, I've been called Jason Medina for freaking, I don't know, 20, 30 years of my life. But before that, I was called a different name. But now people call me from a middle name all the time. And not only that, they chopped up my name so many times. In Estonia, they pronounce my name Jason. I don't know why they add an extra A, like they say Jason, and my last name is Medina. So like they add an extra E somehow. And it really drives me freaking nuts. Only the Russian speaking people can say it correctly, Jason Medina. But I really don't like it also. And now my correspondence and everywhere is like Jason, middle name Medina all the time. So
I think we mentioned this on a previous episode, how sometimes some Estonians, it's not at all a common thing, but I have been corrected on how to pronounce my own fucking name. Like, no, your name is actually pronounced Stuart. Like,
Stuart.
No, come on. And the worst, Steward.
Yes.
My name is spelled Stewart. There is not a fucking single person anywhere in the world who's named Steward. The name does not exist as a name. It's a word. It's a position, a profession. You are the steward of Gondor or something. And then somebody calls me like Steward. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? No, I'm not Steward. I'm Stuart. The name comes from the same root. But nobody ever has been called Stewart.
Well, let's start talking about Estonian names for whoever doesn't know anything about Estonian names. One of the things names that I always drive me crazy, and I was curious
names.
about, like it was a simple name, 3-letter name, Uku. Why would you name anybody Uku? It sounds like like a burp sound or something.
And the last name is Lele.
Ukulele. Nice.
No, ba-doom-doom.
But we actually have a mutual friend who's a photographer, and he has a very peculiar name. So you like sharing that name?
Yeah, he spells the first name. He's a really nice guy. And
amazing, I love him.
And he has great English, and he has a pretty good sense of humor. His first name is Harry, like Harry. But then his last name is a typical Estonian name, Tiits, pronounced Teets. So I'm not going to say the entire name altogether, but I kind of got the feeling that I'm one of the few people who can actually make fun of his name because, I love my father. My last name is Johnson. My father's first name is Harold. I'm not going to go any further with that.
Use your imagination, guys.
Yeah, but there's what are some other there's some Estonian names like.
But for me, it's for a person who has we have a lot of names with genders like Fernando, Fernanda, Roberto, Roberta.
Yeah.
But over here it's more like all the names sound the same to me. We have Aivo, we have Raivo, we have Taivo. Like what the hell? Like Annu. Anne, Anni, like they all sound the same, Katre, Kadri, Katri, like make up your mind.
And
like,
so many Christs.
Exactly.
Christina, Krista, Christel. Good grief.
I actually have a friend also. His name is Christian Rabbi. So he's got two different.
Christian Rabbi.
Yeah, he's got two different religions in his name. So it's freaking. Actually, he pronounced it Ribi, but still, Ribi is actually ribs. Is that correct? So,
yeah.
But I also like Mr. Christian Rabbi.
And these are totally normal names in Estonia. They just sound funny to a native English speaker. That's all. It's like that tower, Keek and de Kirk. which means a peek into the kitchen. But the way that they write it with that kind of old style, what do you call it, italics or something like that, the penmanship, it looks like kicking the cock. And so I have heard so many times that it's one of the number one tourist destinations for British men. They go and just take a selfie, or they pose in front of kicking the cock, and then they go back home and like, haha, look what I found. It's really classic. What are some other another Estonian name? There's he's like an actor or something. His name is Tiit Sukk.
Yeah, Tiit Sukk, I think it's, yeah.
Yeah, like Sukk is his last name. First name is like Tiit, but Tiit. This time it's a first name. So, it's a totally normal name in Estonia, but he must have a lot of trouble going to another country. Like, imagine him going to the American border control, like, yes, sir, here it says your name is Titsuk. Tiit Sukk.
Oh, it says Sock Tit.
No, it says Titsuk here in America. You like Titsuk. Who's this footballer athlete with you? Oh, this is Titsuk. Like S-O-K-K. Titsuk and Titsuk. You mean, well, here in America, we call it a bra. An over-the-shoulder boulder holder. That's your name.
Nice. When you go back home, I wanted to ask you, when you go back home to the States, those people ask you about Estonia at all? Like, do they want to know? Right now on social media, a lot of people are asking me, like, how is it to live there? Is it cold? Is it warm? How is the people? Do they ask you these kind of normal questions? Or
yeah,
they stop asking you?
My friends, like friends who follow, my friends don't follow me on social media. People like old high school friends I'm friends with on social media, they know where I live. They've done the research themselves. Maybe they don't know that much about it, but they know where it is, definitely. But I always get questions like, what language do they speak in Estonia? Mm-hmm. Do they speak Russian? I'm like, well, Russians in Estonia speak Russian, but Estonia is its own language. And I explain all that very politely. And of course, I always make the joke when they're like, where is it? I'm like, well, it's right next to Latvia. I'm like, but yeah, my friends, a lot of them have actually been here, so they know all about it. Some of them have been here even 2 or even 3 times. Mm-hmm. And they're very, very curious about it. But the friends who have not, when I do go back, ever so seldom, like every few years, what are the people like? Is it a backwards country? People really don't know anything about it.
Really?
And then I get to brag. I'm like, oh, here's the part where it's really cool. Like, actually, Estonia advises the American military on cyber defense. And the cyber defense headquarters for NATO is right up the road from where I live. I'm always very, very proud to say that.
Well, to be honest with you, the reason I asked you that question is because a couple of years back, I was interviewed of a national television channel and show from Costa Rica. And I still can remember. I still remember like yesterday. I can't really forgive her actually for what she said. When she was going to introduce me, she said, "We have a Costa Rican from so and so town who lives in a country that is out of our map." And I'm like, "What is that supposed to mean? Out of our map?" So and I'm like, she's like, "Yeah, he lives in Estonia." So I'm like, which map is she talking about? Like, and after the interview, I actually asked her. She's like, "Well, I meant to say out of the continental or whatever American map." And I'm like, "But it was so like, And I even told her where is Estonia. She had no idea where Estonia was. Bear in mind, she interviewed me to talk about the country. So I was really blown away by her reaction and her expressions when I asked her like, "Where is Estonia?"
It's right next to Finland, which of course doesn't actually exist in reality. It's like that old joke, like, oh, Finland doesn't actually exist. Like, yo, motherfucker, I'm in Finland right now, and I'm here. I can prove to you that it does exist. No, I'm not in Finland right now.
Did you ever tell people that you are next to Russia? Because that's something the Estonians don't do all the time.
For some reason, there's like a stigma to that. Like, we don't want to be associated with Russia because we want distance between the former Soviet Union. Estonians really don't like it when people refer to Estonia as a former Soviet republic.
I always hear like, oh, we're, in the Nordics, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Estonia. And that's the kind of version I hear all the time.
Yeah, so I remember, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, Estonians like to say that, oh, we're in Scandinavia. I'm like, no, not really. Finland's not even Scandinavia.
That's true.
It's not Scandinavian.
That's true.
So now they like to use the Nordics. We're in the Nordics, but for some reason the Nordics doesn't include Latvia and Lithuania. Now those don't have like a Finno-Ugric language or a Scandinavian Germanic language, but they're further north than Denmark, which is unquestionably Scandinavia.
Let's talk about their sense of humor. You're a comedian. And I like to laugh. So I like to know more about, or maybe our viewers or listeners would like to know more about how is it to deal with Estonians in an everyday life with, do they have a good sense of humor or sense of humor at all?
Yeah, they have a great sense of humor. Like, when we first started doing Comedy Estonia, I helped start the group 11 whatever years ago, what year is it? 2021? Yeah.
Yeah.
11 and a half years ago. We didn't know how phenomenally successful it was going to be. Everybody said, oh, Estonians don't like to laugh. They don't have a sense of humor. And I'd already been here like 13 years at the time, or 12 years. And I know very well that Estonians do have a great sense of humor. They just don't always laugh out loud as much as a lot of other countries would, or cultures, I should say. But when we did that first open mic in Muku, we didn't even have to advertise it. That place had over 70 people. You were there that first night? Oh, so you saw me forget my first 2 jokes?
I was there.
I got up there and I'm like, I was the first person ever to do stand-up comedy in this country. And I get up there and I'm like, I forgot my first 2 jokes, and people started laughing. They thought it was a joke, and I actually did forget the first 2 jokes.
I was there, and I actually saw you guys also in Drink Bar and a couple other places as well. For me, I know I'm a big lover of stand-up comedy. You know, I grew up in New York, and I used to go to the Caroline and a lot of the shows there, places to go see the shows. And I craved that so much for the first couple of years that I was here because I realized that they have a lot of great comedians also in the Estonian language. And in fact, when I get up, most of the jokes I know are in Spanish. So when I translate into English, they kind of make sense to them. And it was a lot of funny experience for them. It was mostly dirty jokes. So I realized that they were my kind of people, But when the comedians, you guys started, getting together, I was so blown away and I was so excited about the situation. I was leaving mainly because I love having stand-up comedy in the country. So,
well, a year and a half or so later, at the beginning, it was limited to people who spoke English on a pretty decent level. To actually get jokes in a foreign language, that's a feat. That takes a lot of effort to reach that level of language, and. So a year and a half, 2 years later, I don't remember exactly when, that's when we started doing stand-up comedy in Estonian. And, I was terrified before that show. Like, am I going to forget something? And I only did 6 minutes, but we were in Vilde in Tartu the first time we did it. And we had done an English show, and then we kicked everyone out, and then they had to pay to come back in. But this time, I think the maximum seating capacity was like 150 or something like that.
It was in Krones also too, right? It was
yeah. It was whatever. I don't remember.
Too much. It was too much.
I think it was euros already back then. Or maybe not. I don't remember. Oh, yeah, it was Krones. So then we kicked everyone out, and then they came back in, and we said, yeah, we're going to do an Estonian show, just 1 hour. And that place was packed. It took like half an hour just to get everybody in. We started late. There were so many people in there that there were people sitting on the stage.
Wow.
And turning around facing where the comedian was. And so I knew when it was my turn to go on stage, and I had like 2 minutes to get there, it took me 2 minutes to get there just walking around the people, so I had to leave early just so I could make it on when I was actually announced. It was that crowded. Like, I'm so glad the fire department didn't come.
What is the worst thing that has happened to you in a show? Like, hecklers, for example.
A dog was running around circles.
A dog?
A dog,
During the show?
During the show, yeah.
Why was there a dog there in the first place?
I got hired to do a private show. Like, somebody was having a party, and we went to a place called F-Hone, a restaurant. And the sound was horrible. We hadn't checked it properly beforehand. That's why I was always like very, very a big stickler about sound check. Make sure, otherwise I'm not going to do the show if we don't have proper sound. It's not worth it. And I'm doing the show, and suddenly the microphone dies because the MC for the night, he had been monopolizing the microphone before we were even invited onto the stage. I was there with another comedian. The first comedian went. He was fine. The microphone died when I was there. And so I start trying to yell just so people in the back can hear me. And then this fucking dog comes from the other room and starts running around. Yeah, he's barking and stuff. Another time I was doing a private party, and it was for a travel company, and so they wanted me to. It was in like an old restored warehouse, and so I'm standing in a gantry crane, 3 floors above the ground. And the thing was moving, and I'm already terrified. Like, I don't get scared when I'm on stage. But my hands are sweating. I was also, like, right in the middle of getting chemotherapy, so I was weak as hell, completely bald. And there's this gantry crane, and I'm supposed to be telling jokes and welcoming people while the damn crane is moving forward, and there's a pillar that I had to duck under or I would be decapitated.
Damn.
And so I'm just like, get me down. I don't want to do this again. That was probably the hardest set that I had to do. Oh, yeah, and I was doing it in Estonian.
Oh, wow.
So it was just too many complicating factors for me personally at that time.
So what would you think, sense of humor-wise, how would you compare Estonian to, let's say, another country that you might have the experience? Sense of humor.
I think the general sense of humor is going to be pretty much the same throughout Europe. Some cultures will find one thing more or less funny. Like, I have a joke about buying tampons that Estonians think is great. And every time I've ever told this joke in Holland or like a much more liberal country where, of course, women are treated, honestly, I'll say a little bit more equally than in Estonia. It's just not funny. There's no embarrassment for them buying tampons, so the joke doesn't work.
How about like racist jokes or something with that?
I don't tell racist jokes.
No, but have you heard how do you feel how they react to these kind of jokes from other comedians, for example? I have heard a couple. I mean, I went to a couple of shows here a couple of years after the Comedy Estonia started, and there was a couple of racy subjects being said by a couple of comedians. Especially, I think it was one Swedish comedian who was saying a lot of strange words.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to comment on that because honestly, I don't tolerate racism. I don't like it at all. I don't have any racist jokes because I just don't think like that. It's like people say, "Oh, do you have any jokes about like mean jokes about Russians or Jews or something?" Like, no, I don't. I don't think of these. I don't repeat them.
The reason actually I brought it up is because I've been asked that question also online and also through a couple of my friends who want to migrate or thought about migrate to this part of the world. They always ask, is racism something very much alive or something that they might be able to experience or suffer there if they move to Estonia? Per my experience, it hasn't been at all. I mean, I never felt any racism at all, any discrimination whatsoever. And I'm a very peculiar looking person. So just in case you haven't seen me, I am beautifully developed, I will say.
There's a lot of you to love.
That's a lot of me. And I definitely do not look Estonian. But I never felt that. I never felt whatsoever. That's one of the things I always tell people. So have you ever felt anything like that towards you from any country, not just Estonia?
Have I felt unwelcome?
Yes.
Because of my ethnicity or nationality?
Right. You lived in France, so I mean that as an American, that got to be a little bit.
Americans are very stigmatic throughout the world for obvious reasons. We are treated generally as people just assume that we are ignorant, that we only speak one language, and we don't know where we are in the world. What's the capital of what's Paris? What's the capital of Europe? Stuff like that.
What's the capital?
Pure ignorance. And yeah, there are Americans like that. There are people from every country like that.
Right.
It's just that when people make fun of Americans, they tend to bring out the stereotypes. And stereotypes are based on a little tiny shred of truth. And you can have fun with them so long as you preface the fun with, I don't actually think like this. We're just taking the piss out of stereotypes.
I heard a couple of days ago, I was in a work meeting, and one of my coworkers said, "Well, Estonians, we're very slow." And I'm like, "No, you're not.
Not at all.
What are you saying?" I was really blown away. And I asked him, "It's like, well, around Europe, people think we're slow." I'm like, have you seen the freaking development, technologically speaking, that you guys have done?
Slow in that way. Oh, okay. Yeah.
like what the fuck? What are you talking about? Yeah, he was like, yeah, we're very slow people, kind of like.
I've always heard they're really fast, like maximum 30 seconds. Fuck it, I'm gonna have a beer.
Oh, Jesus!
Get drunk on the air.
Don't spill.
Oh yeah.
Wait. Me too, bro. Here you go.
I don't know if you can see this. It's like armpit beer.
Yeah.
It's got an armpit on the label.
And I like it because
armpit
it says
beer.
drinking.
Drink the armpits. Oh, yuck.
What? I'm going to say something in Estonian for you guys to know. Terviseks. Chichin.
Chichin. Here we go.
Amazing. The reason I say that is because I always tell people...
Excuse me.
That was a good burp.
I can do better.
To remember how to say terviseks or cheers or salut in Estonian, you remember saying terrible sex, which, by the way, does not happen in Estonia.
Originally, way back in the day, I always heard terviseks would be like tervis sulle, sex mulle, like health to you and sex to me. That was the original joke that I heard.
Together?
Well, hopefully those two things would be combined. You don't want to have unhealthy sex. that would not be good.
That's something that I'm very, very curious because Estonians are very open-minded, from my experience. But it seems like talking about sex is still kind of stigma, I will say. It's still kind of not really open when it comes to... They have sex. And they have open sex, and there are a lot of open relationships. I mean, I know friends that are really in open relationships, but they don't really talk about it. So,
well, yeah. I mean, imagine somebody who would like to talk about it. That would be pretty damned odd if you think about it. No, I
mean, but not even as a joke or as a topic of conversation. Talk about anything related to sex is more like they're really reserved when it comes to that. I guess.
Yeah, but imagine a guy saying like, "Oh yeah, I was out with one girlfriend last night, and I'm going out with another girlfriend tonight." And, that's already going to sound bad, but guys are going to look at him and think, oh, stud. Imagine if a woman says, I was out with one boyfriend last night and I'm going to be out with another boyfriend tonight. Immediately, she's like blacklisted.
Yeah, but you can just wash it off.
Horrible joke. I think it's really unfair. But yeah, people generally don't talk about their relationships. One thing that I've heard, I think we've already talked about this, a lot of families in Estonia the members don't tell each other that they love each other.
Yes.
I've had that conversation many times. Like, my mother has never told me that she loves me, or I've never told my husband or my wife.
That's in my family also. I mean, one of the things, the only person who tells me or ever told me was my mom. And for example, with my kids, I tell them every chance I get, I love you. They need to make sure, and I want to make sure they know that I love them, and I mean it, of course. But yes, they don't do that. And for me, I experienced that with my wife's grandmother because she was kind of shocked because I'm a very touchy person, I'm Latino, so I'm huggy all the time. She was kind of shocked in the beginning. But now she actually embraces, she comes and hugs me and touches me and the back, and kind of like, embrace the caring part of me. So I kind of enjoy that. But yes, they're very much into their own personal space, I will say, even with the words.
Yeah, well, of course, there's that old joke like the Finns made it, the Estonians made it. Like people are relieved that the 2 meter spacing rule is going away because now we can go back to our normal 4 meters between each other. That old joke. They've made that in a few countries, and each country that makes it, they all make the same joke. And they say, "Oh, that's our joke," and that is in the world of comedy, that's called a hack joke. Like it's so easy that everybody comes up with the same joke, or they repeat a joke. Like I don't know. So the typical joke that I would say, for example, that would be a hack joke.
Let's get back to your trip. You're going to go away tomorrow, is that correct?
Yeah, tomorrow morning.
How long are you going to be gone?
About a week.
And there's something different that you have to, besides, of course, the political part and everything like that, you have to be careful or what to say, what not to say, being told to you.
Yeah, I don't know how strictly enforced a lot of things are there, but I've heard that it is pretty strictly enforced. Like no public affection, public displays of affection, PDA, as Americans like to make acronyms
so
out
you
of
can,
every fucking
like,
thing.
hold your wife or girlfriend's hand or...
I'm not married, dude.
No, I'm just saying in general.
If you're married... You can. I'm not sure how far you can go with that. Like maybe you can hold hands or something. But if you're not married, you absolutely can't do anything. You can walk together, I guess. And they've relaxed laws in the past 3 years. Like when they finally allowed women the right to get a driver's license. I think some of the other laws that they relaxed are foreign tourists who are not married are allowed to share a hotel room. But the question is, do they monitor the hotel room? That's the thing. And so I started researching it, and they're very, very protective about family members, like female family members, about their faces and sometimes even names being known by other people. So apparently, I'm not, don't quote me on this, apparently it's impolite to ask a coworker what his wife's name is or daughter's name. They will volunteer that information if they feel comfortable with you knowing it.
Interesting.
And so, and the same thing is with seeing these people. And so I'm wondering, like, if they do monitor in a hotel room, that's actually breaking Sharia law because you're watching a female without the man's permission.
Drinking the beer is not a good idea. I'm going to start.
No, yeah, I'm having trouble holding it back too. And so I'm thinking that they're only going to like monitor sound. Maybe. I don't know.
Luckily for you, you don't make it now. So no,
But one of the things I actually am worried about is I'm mostly ambidextrous, but I'm definitely left-hand dominant. I don't know how to eat with my right hand.
Oh, yeah.
And in Saudi Arabia, you're not allowed to eat with your left hand.
Right?
Yeah, I know why. Yeah, you don't want, ladies and gentlemen, you don't want to know what was making that sound. Luckily, most of the food there, apparently, you don't use the utensils for. So,
right.
I don't think I could use a fork with my right hand. So, but luckily, that's not an issue. You just you eat it. It's like finger food. And you use bread.
It is interesting how you talked about space and not touching and all this stuff or showing affection. Last year I was in India, and one of the things that caught my eye, it was pretty shocking for me because I've heard about it, but I never really experienced it or saw it. The guy who I was with wanted to hold my hand. He was showing me around, and he wanted to make sure I was okay. He wanted to hold my hand. And I saw many couples of friends holding hands, guys. And this is totally normal for them. And I mean, in Costa Rica, for example, in Latin America, it's normal to see two girls, holding hands, dancing together, whatever, normal. two guys holding together, it's a very macho mentality, environment.
It's still macho there?
It's still very macho.
What about like
Latin America.
what about tolerance for like the LGBT community? Is that tolerated or?
Costa Rica, I think.
No. I mean India.
Oh, India, no, forget about it. No.
So that's like basically
This,
verboten.
if you see
but
that,
guys can hold hands still.
If you see that, there for sure they have to be straight guys. In fact, the guy that I was with is married with kids and everything. So and I was
so weird.
Yeah, so I was blown
interesting.
away. I was blown away because I'm like, for me, it's like again a very macho mentality. Also from Latin America, I'm like, guys don't touch. We don't do this kind of embrace each other. But they were holding hands. Walking around. As friends and on the street, on the beach, or whatever. Not a problem.
Well, one thing about Estonia that's always kind of, it's just ironic, like the sauna culture. Like there is a lot of homophobia in this country. It's making progress. The LGBT community is becoming more and more freer in society, and I'm a strong supporter of it. I think that's a good thing. But there's still a lot of homophobia in this country. But what do they do on a Saturday night? What do they say? Like, hey, let's get naked and go sweat together in a small candlelit romantic wooden room.
No, thank you.
I mean, that's just kind of weird. Like, oh, you can't be gay, but we can be naked together and sweat together. And then bend over. I'm going to hit you on the back with a branch.
No,
and then you do
thank
it to
you.
me. And then you do it to me.
Aita.
No, that's called what is it? Vihlamine.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that when I moved to this country, I was pretty shocked because I'm not a beer drinker. Right now I'm doing it, but I'm not really a big fan. I'm not a heavy drinker as well, and I hate sweating. I've come from a freaking country where average temperature is 32 degrees, so I don't want to be hot. And these people just get together, get butt naked. You see each other's buttholes basically, to sweat and to drink beer. For me, this is not normal, guys. I'm sorry. Palon papandos.
I've even been at like sauna parties or parties where there is sauna going on, and I've seen like guys asking each other to, can you like take the sponge and wash my back?
Scrub my back. Yeah.
Scrub my back. Yeah. And that's a very rare thing, but I have seen that. And but then you go outside and you're like, oh, I have a friend who's gay, and then they're both like, oh, gay, no. I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Do you just forget what he just did? I mean, it's so ironic that people can be so short-sighted.
Why do you think that is, though?
Ignorance, lack of experience. They just haven't.
Wait. Lack of what experience?
Oh yeah, I see where you're going there. Like they just haven't known many people. Like I've known gay people my whole life. But they're people.
To be honest,
fucking what?
Talking about sexuality, I think it's nobody's business. Which way do you go to? I mean, for me, it's so retarded to even talk about it.
If I enjoy getting a coffee or a beer with you because you have good conversation, then I like you.
Yeah, and
what
actually,
you do,
I think, and now since this show is in English, and I think I'm pretty safe by what I'm going to say, I am not 100% sure. It's like we know, but we don't know. I have an uncle who is 50 years old now, dressed very well, and extremely, nice person and everything. We love him very much, and we always thought, or we always suspected that he was gay or that he is gay.
Is his name Uncle Hano?
No, that's the other one.
The Uncle Hanos are always closeted gays.
Yeah. But, to be honest with you, I have actually tried to trick him a little bit. He's so good at it. And, he's very manly, he's a man's man, But we always kind of suspected. The funny thing is, in Costa Rica or in Latin America in general, you cannot just say, hey, by the way, do you like dudes? Because that's like frowned upon completely. And the funny thing is, I kind of feel sad that he cannot be himself. Regardless of, whether he's my family member or not. Who gives a fuck if he's, a gay person or not? And I think the traveling around the world, living in different countries, have opened my mind to the point that, I'm happy to tell you I accept everyone who they are. But I think that's one of the things that we have luck in the world. Unfortunately, not everybody has the same ability to move around the world and see other things and cultures and etc. But I think that's what we need to have more acceptance, and less ignorance in the world. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I to be honest, like I think we need to start finishing up for today. I'll just say one more comment. Like I don't like the word tolerant. Like okay, it's a catchphrase to say like I'm tolerant of whatever group of people. Like that's one of the worst things you can say if you think about it semantically. Right. I understand what they mean by it. I'm just talking semantics. To tolerate means to agree that this thing can exist. Basically to give something permission to exist. So if you say that I'm tolerant of this community, you're basically saying I give these people to exist. They have my personal blessing.
Right.
As if I have some power over them. So the worst thing you can't say is like I'm tolerant of the community. Just like Just say like, I'm not a dickhead.
Did I say
don't-
that?
No,
I was
not
gonna
you.
say-
I'm just saying, like everybody says this about I'm tolerant of this race or this group of society, whatever. I'm not going to specify anything. People say this all the time. Even in Estonian, they say tolerantsus. And the word means the same thing in Estonian that tolerance means in English.
Tolerantsus, oh.
Yeah. If you
New
think
word.
about it, it's like the dumbest thing you could say.
But
Just say like, I'm not an asshole. I'm not a dickhead.
But,
I'm not going to treat people like they're lesser than me.
we sometimes act like everything that happens around us is new. There always have been gay people. There always have been black people, white people, Chinese, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, why does that surprise us nowadays? I mean, there always has been immigration. Come on, the society or basically humanity didn't start throughout the world. It started in one place and we migrated. So, what is the situation we're trying to, label and classify people by their sexuality or their skin color or color of their eyes or whatever?
Well, one thing I've noticed, and this is a really interesting talking point, but we really should finish up. If you look at a map of Europe.
It's time to finish already.
Yeah, if you look at a map of Europe, like
I still
which
have
countries. Finish it. Drink it like a Wisconsin boy. You look at a map of Europe. The countries that used to be Western Bloc and Eastern Bloc. So like Warsaw Pact countries and Eastern Europe and Western Europe. And basically look at gay tolerance, like LGBTQ tolerance, acceptance in society, gay marriage, basically, same-sex marriage, anything like that. They basically line up perfectly. They're the same. And so like basically Poland, they're moving backwards in terms of social development in a lot of ways. All these countries east of a certain point, they are anti this group of people, whereas people in the West are much more tolerant. I hate to use that word again. We need to come up with a better word.
Acceptance, I guess.
Acceptant, that also says that it kind of means like I have some control over, I think I have some control over whether you can exist or not. Anyways, all I'm trying to say is that the ideology is very, very clearly marked on a map, and it aligns perfectly with former communism. Former communist states, or states that used to be communist.
Wait, so
like the former Soviet Republic of Estonia. Can't say that
Let
either.
me try to understand that. So what you're saying is if you were communist and have that mentality, you are less tolerant, for lack of a better word? Or
During communism, it was illegal to be gay. That's pure and simple. It was illegal.
Many
get sent to
countries still
Siberia.
is, I think, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking only about Europe. And these countries, the ones that are tolerant of gay people, well, or the ones that aren't tolerant, they are also former Soviet or former communist countries. And so is it possible that your entire political ideals are based on a completely defunct social norm that hasn't existed for 30 years now?
It might be possible.
It might be possible.
Listen, I think we went a little too serious on this.
Oh,
episode.
no, it's fine. It's fine. We had some good laughs.
But what do you think if we do just something to just kind of end up the show on a little bit happier note, since we have talked about
Sure.
since we have talked about sex and everything like that on a very polite, father kind of jokes kind of thing. What do you think if we talked about something like
Holocaust?
No, something that you can say during sex that you can also say at the dinner table, for example.
Something that you can say during sex and at the dinner table.
Right.
At the same time?
Right. Like you can know. I mean, you can say in any occasion. For example, I'm going to give you an example. For example, if I said, next time, let's invite the neighbors.
Yeah, the swingers party. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can say also at the dinner time.
I think it also depends on the family dynamics too. Like you can say, "Grandma, take your ass out on the mashed potatoes."
Oh, how about it's a bit dry.
It's a bit dry.
Yeah.
The joke or the okay.
You got it.
Yeah, that's right up there with that old joke. Everybody's heard it. It's a hack joke. My girlfriend started smoking, so I slowed down and added more lube. That kind of joke. I don't know where I heard that joke the first time, but almost everybody's heard it. It's great.
Another thing you can say also, like, did you enjoy that, Grandma?
Yeah. The mashed potatoes, you mean?
Right. That tastes better with whipped cream. Mm-hmm. You can say that too, right?
That tastes better with whipped cream.
Yes.
Like the
whip. That's what Stewie said from Family Guy. Whipped cream.
Aha. Okay, is it before or after you've stirred it a lot?
Don't know. No. Stop playing with that and eat it already.
Okay. Well, it's been a great episode. Next week we have a guest. We're not going to say who it is, but she is it's empty.
Already?
She is a singer. Oh, I told you, I'm from Wisconsin. She's a singer. and she's a good singer. And I'm hoping that she will agree to sing with us. It should be a lot of fun.
Dude, I'm not a singer. What are you saying?
I know. It's going to be great.
Shit.
You're going to have to sing, buddy.
You guys are going to have to check it out. Hey, listen, don't forget to follow us on social media. Look up for us at the, what is it? It's the Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, everywhere. The Estonian Experience with Stew and Jay. Stew and Jay. Steward. With Steward and Jay.
Stewart and Yason. Thanks, guys. See you later.
See you. Adios.